Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education University, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. Now, we've had some really long episodes lately over the past couple months and some kind of heavy episodes, so I was thinking it's time for us to jump into something a little more light, maybe just do a really quick episode for 1 week. And lucky enough, Abby Schukei just published an article yesterday that is really worth talking about. It's called Things Art Teachers Hate That Really Aren't So Bad. And I loved it, to be honest. I thought it was a really, really fun read. You know, it's simple and it's fun, but it's got a much bigger message. There are things that, you know, we all love to complain about and we love to hate, especially as art teachers. But honestly, like, are they that big of a deal? You know, there are always those people who aren't happy unless they're unhappy. You know what I mean? And honestly, I don't have time for them. Okay, but I think most teachers spend a little bit of time complaining, and a little bit is good. Okay, but it's really easy to let that get the best of you. Like, it really can snowball. But this article that Abby wrote and her advice is to maybe not focus on the worst qualities of what's going on, but instead try to appreciate what we have. You know, I really love that advice, and that's going to be the basis of our discussion today. So we're going to chat with Abby, which is cool for all the reasons I just mentioned. And, you know, it's been quite a while since she's been on the show. I think probably December was the last time, right before break, when we talked about how you can use the holidays to advocate for your program. But it's time to start a conversation with her again. I'm in her room. Looks like she's just about ready to talk to me. So we will get her mic'd up and we can get to it. All right, I am in Abby Schukei's classroom because she loves inviting me in to talk about all sorts of great things. Abby, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for coming back. We're sitting in the dungeon of my art room right now. It's really scary. This is where we always sit. But thanks for not being afraid to come back.
You know, it stresses me out a little bit, to be honest. Like, it's tough to walk through without stepping on stuff, but, you know, we make it work.
Well, interesting enough, right. Today we were talking about phobias for my 8th grade art class, and so maybe you have a phobia or a fear of this messy dungeon storage room. So I apologize, but we're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, we'll just power through. I'll be fine. But I wanted to talk, I don't know, I kind of wanted to argue about things, but I realized you're right with most of the things in your article that came out yesterday. So it was called Things Art Teachers Love to Hate But Aren't So Bad. So before we get into the conversation, can I ask you, like, just what was the impetus for this article? Like, what inspired you to write it?
First off, I would just like to say I am always right. No. Kidding. But this was a really fun article to write just because I feel like anytime, I mean, it's 2019, and if you've ever been on the internet in the past 2 or 3 years, people just love to complain about things. Mm-hmm. They love to complain about things that don't matter, that aren't important. Yes. So I kind of took the things that I always saw art teachers complaining about and wanted to spin the positive light on things. Like, hey, they're actually not that bad. Or if anything, maybe for those teachers that do truly, really hate these things that I talked about in the article, maybe they can maybe if they read the article, they're not going to have such a negative outlook on things. It was really just a way to kind of look towards the positivity and stop all the complaining.
That's good. I don't think you're going to stop the complaining, but it is a valiant effort. And now I actually want to talk about the positivity later, but I do want to get into the article here. So let's talk about Comic Sans. Okay. Now, before I read your article, I really hated the Comic Sans font. And now, after reading it, I still hate it, but maybe a little bit less. And actually, I feel kind of guilty because you made the point about it being great for people with dyslexia. You know, it's a really effective font. And now, when I complain about it, I just feel like I'm hating on people who have dyslexia. I feel very guilty about that. So, good work accomplishing, that guilt trip for me. But there's also a great article that you linked to that kind of explained the origin of the font and I guess kind of taught me maybe why it's not so bad. But in the article, you never answered the question on how you feel about it. So I want to ask you, the question is, where do you fall on the Comic Sans font? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you in between?
I have a love-hate relationship with Comic Sans. Okay. I'm like a big font typeface nerd.
Right.
Like one day we were at a staff development meeting and one of my coworkers like sees me like downloading fonts and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, I just need this. This is like what's going to make me happy. So yes, I totally hate it. So I teach a digital art class and I hate it when students have like a really cool design and then like they just slap Comic Sans on it because they think it's like fun and kind of like a cool font, which like if you look back to what the origin is at that time, there were no fonts like that existed. Mm-hmm. So that was the true meaning of it, but it got overused and like wasn't, it's still difficult to like read notes that are all written in Comic Sans, but because I do, after doing some research on it and how typographers have actually developed specific fonts for people with dyslexia, but, they might not have access to them to download them and things like that. Research has actually shown that Comic Sans is good for that, just the way that the letters are spaced. It looks like real handwritten letters, and that there's also some studies that look at how it could be age appropriate. So, if you are typing out a document for a group of third grade students and it's all in Times New Roman, like that could be a little standoffish, whereas Comic Sans maybe looks a little bit more friendly. But from a design point, yes, I think there are better options, but we can't totally hate it.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to ask you about was mechanical pencils, because I had never thought about this. Like, I always have the conversation with my kids about mechanical pencils. Like, hey, look, they're really good for adding detail and really fine lines. Hey, look, they're really bad for shading and like spreading out any sort of graphite. And then we just kind of move on with our lives. Like, it takes literally 2 minutes to say, here's what they're good for, here's what they're bad for. But like, are there really that many teachers that just have so much hate in their heart for mechanical pencils?
I think there are. Tim, aren't you one of them?
No, like they have weaknesses, and so they're not good for drawing. And there are certain times where I'm like, no, this is the worst possible option. But you can talk about that with your kids and then just kind of move on.
There are definitely some disadvantages and advantages to them. And I'm going to be completely honest. When I was in college, I used mechanical pencils all the time. My drawing professors were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, you know what? It's easier. Don't have to sharpen my pencil. I always draw super, super dark. So I loved the 0.7, 0.9 lead. That 0.9 was the best because it didn't break. I had some really great Disney princess ones when I was in college that were 0.9. And, it was awesome. But, when it comes down to it, we should be thankful that our students are bringing a pencil to class no matter what. Yeah. And if we're truly doing something, a drawing project where we need special drawing pencils, different types, like I'm going to provide those to them. But there are some things like, what does it matter if we're just using mechanical pencils? Maybe blending and shading isn't going to be ideal, but kids don't have to sharpen their pencils. They can ask me for lead. I'm not going to have it. They have erasers on them, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, same. And I think, like you said, if you have certain things that you want to teach them that mechanical pencils can't accomplish, you just give them other pencils that will do that. And it's just like any other material. And So anyway, I have a tough time understanding the hate for that one, but just wanted to get your perspective there. Now, from on the other end of the spectrum, away from those really fine, nice lines, pastels, and you have the hack of soaking chalk pastels in sugar water. So I want to ask, first off, if you can explain what you're doing there and like what people can do, and tell me like where did you find that?
So there's two options that you can do with it. So you can, the day before you want to use your chalk pastels, you can soak them in color with some sugar water overnight. They're going to be fine. They're not going to dissolve up or anything. And then once you take them out, you'll notice that they're a little bit darker in color. Another option, if you don't have time to soak them, is you can just have a container of sugar water and dip into it. So then it's like wet as you're using it. So that could be an option as well. But the reason why I discovered this is when I was teaching elementary art on a cart and going to classroom, it was obviously a mess.
Yeah.
But there were so many chalk pastels for us to use. Like that was like an abundant supply. So I was trying to figure out ways we can use it without like creating a chalk storm everywhere. And I discovered this. I don't know. I just did a lot of weird research online and it worked out really well. And, hands still get messy, but the mess is not quite as dusty. It wipes up easy just with like a Clorox wipe or something. But the result of it is, especially if you're like doing it on a black piece of paper or, a darker piece of construction paper, the colors are way more vibrant. They blend together almost like an oil pastel look, compared to just regular chalk. So, and they last a lot longer, and it was just something easy to do. And I know some people don't like to use chalk pastels because of the feel of them or the sound that they make. And, this could be a good solution if you don't like those things about the chalk pastels, just because they're a really cool material when you do use them with your students.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do. They're really vibrant. I was just going to say at the Art Ed Now conference, we always do those live polls and those live questions during the day. And Don Massey was presenting on chalk pastels. And if you guys need any lessons or any ideas on what to do with chalk pastels, Don's got a ton of them. But I did a poll question that was just, how do you feel about the sound that chalk pastels make? And half the people were like, oh, I've never thought about it before. And the other half were just like, oh my God, it's the worst. And so this may be a solution.
Yeah, I think it makes a difference too, like the shape of the chalk pastels that you get. Like ones that are rounded that like remind you of a chalkboard are a little bit terrifying.
Yeah.
But the one, the rectangular square shaped ones, I mean, those ones are a little better. But.
Yeah, I think so. And I love to like break them in half, because that reduces a little bit of the vibration and the weird squeaking noises and makes them a little easier to work with. So that's not as cool as the sugar water hack, but just breaking them in half can be worthwhile. Okay, and then I have another bone to pick with this article because I'm not convinced that like those pointless, boring PD days can actually be worthwhile. So I do need some positive spin from you. So can you convince me why terrible days of professional development are not actually that bad?
Okay. As art teachers, we can all relate to sitting through all of the meetings that don't apply to us. They hand you this big packet of, oh, these are all your test scores, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I don't understand how to read these, but I'm still going to discuss about it with a nice smile on my face. You can't see my smile right now, but it's here. But I am one of those people, like, throughout the day that I, don't sit down. I'm not in front of my computer. I have a really difficult time checking my emails or, digital anything that I need to, get caught up on. I don't do it because I'm not sitting down. So, typically during these PD meetings that might not matter to me, it is a good opportunity to respond and catch up on those emails that I might have missed that are warranting a response. If I need something, update a lesson plan or anything that I can work on my computer, if I'm planning for other classes, it gives a good opportunity for that because typically, we can have our computers with us. They just think we're really actively taking notes and participating.
Yes.
But for me, I just don't slow down during the day. And there's something you sit all day and there's that feeling when your face hurts because you've sat all day long and you're not used to it. Maybe it's just me, but it's a good opportunity to catch up on those things that maybe aren't a top priority to you. So, yeah.
Oh, I like that. I still don't know if I'm convinced that it's worthwhile, but I'm glad that you can make it a productive day.
I'm finding the silver lining in the things that maybe aren't as applicable to us.
No, I appreciate that. And that's actually what I kind of wanted to ask you about to wrap it up. Why do you think it's so important to not dwell in the negativity? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but if you can just kind of expand on those ideas, why are you trying to focus on the positives, in this discussion and in your article, even with those things that you kind of hate?
Well, I think it's just a good example, not only to our students, but just how we live each day in our art room. So if we're going to dwell on the things that are not making us happy, then they're not going to make us happy. So instead of focusing on the negative things about them, what can you do to make it a little less terrible? It's not that it's necessarily going to make it happy, but what are just some things that we can stop complaining about things and look at or have gratitude for the things that we have? Maybe chalk pastels aren't our favorite thing to use, but they're supplied to us in abundance. We should be thankful that we have those art materials to use, because I know that there's plenty of teachers out there that don't have anything to use. So I would just encourage everyone, the next time you really want to complain about something or think of the negative aspect of it, just think about what the alternative could be and just be thankful for the opportunities that you can provide your students, and just think about the message you want to bring to your students to carry on the positivity.
That's good. I like that. So we'll go ahead and end it there. Abby, thank you so much. We'll tell everybody to go make sure you check out the article, and thanks for coming on to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for chatting with me.
All right, that will do it for us. Before we go, however, I want to tell you again this week about Art Ed Pro, the essential subscription for professional art teachers. It is on-demand professional development with video tutorials, downloadable handouts, and all kinds of other resources to help take your teaching to the next level. The library has over 90 learning packs in it, but we just keep adding to it. Coming up in April, there are learning packs planned on planning artworks with students. There's one on art and math, and there's also one on encaustics with Lena Rodriguez. So some really cool things coming up soon. So with so many topics that we've already covered and 3 more packs released on the first of every single month, this is the PD when you need it. Hey, make sure you check it out. Start your free trial at theartofeducation.edu/pro. All right. Thank you again to Abby for coming on. Like I said, make sure you go read our article. We will, of course, link to it in the show notes, and it's all over our social media accounts, wherever you follow us. So hope you enjoyed the discussion. I hope you enjoy the article, and I hope you can take her advice to, just take the things you hate and maybe try and be a little bit more positive with them. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education University with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. Thank you for listening as always, and thanks to everyone who came to say hi at the NAEA booth last week. It was great to see everybody, great to converse with everybody, and man, we need to do that more often than once a year. All right, thank you. We will talk to you next week.